Ready to rock and roll.
All right, here we go. Welcome to Lee's Feed. And today our guest is members of the Illinois State Black Chambers. They have titles of regional vice presidents, of which I am one, and there are three. So I'd like to welcome Will Kyles and George Coleman. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing well, Mr. Coleman. How are you?
Pretty good, sir. Down in Southern Illinois. How about you, Mr. George?
Hello, sir. How are you today?
Pretty good, pretty good. No, I like to start this broadcast off by talking about the chamber, and we'll get into our roles. The chamber has been around for 22 years, and the mission of the chamber is to help small businesses access success through developing strategies to assist small businesses in increasing their competitive ability and their capacity. I think that's a pretty good short summation of what the chamber is about, giving black businesses, small black businesses, access to opportunities and capital. What do you think about that as the intro, as far as a mission for the chamber, you guys?
I think that's a very powerful mission. I think that, in fact, know that when you start talking about economics and what any um, culture or ethnicity needs or person needs to survive, you need to have economics, and um, obviously in this day and age, the importance of being able to control your economics and be a part of an organization that reinforces ownership as well as education to that pathway is powerful.
Yes, sir. What about you, Mr. George Coleman?
Well, I think with very simple and important. I think also you have to have an organization that cares, and so I'm sure everybody on this call can probably point out and put their finger on an organization in their respective areas that have been around for years, that have had capacity within their organization, but you want to be an organization at the helm of as the president and filter down to the regional VPs that really care, that have the pertinent experience, that know a little bit about economic development, which is like the backbone of it, and be able to take that approach and that ingenuity to the next level within their respective areas.
Yes, sir. And we'll be remiss in our duties if we don't mention that Mr. Larry Ivory is the founder of the Illinois State Black Chamber. He is the president and CEO of the Illinois State Black Chamber, emanating out of Springfield, Illinois. And he's also the chairman of the board of the National Black Chamber, that is about a little bit older than the Illinois State Black Chamber. So Larry Ivory has been a champion of the mission that we just talked about, and caring for black businesses and black people as a whole, because if you take care of black businesses, you're going to help the black community thrive. So hats off to Mr. Larry Ivory.
Yes,
And
sir.
he chose us to be regional VPs. So before we get into what a regional VP does, I'd like to go to Will Kyles and ask him a little bit about his background. How did you get involved, and where did you come from, Will?
Well, as God would have it, I'm originally from Chicago, but he had a mission for me in Champaign. So I'm in Champaign, Illinois. Um, I the one of the I For the chamber, I was start. It was the start of my term as a local city council member for the city of Champaign, and because economics has always been very important to me, the mission of the chamber falls in right in line in my own belief system. Um, I remember being a part of the local chapter of the it was the Champaign County Black Chamber of Commerce. And so I was hearing about these different events that were going on, and I just to be honest with you, I wanted to see what was going on outside of our community, to be a part of a bigger mission, a bigger, um, mission. And so remember just going down to I believe it was the first lobby day, and ever
What
since
is Lobby Day?
then.
Let's explain what Lobby Day is. What is a Lobby Day?
Well, Lobby Day is an opportunity for businesses all over the state of Illinois, Black businesses, that is, where we go and lobby our legislators and talk to them about what's most important to us, what are our concerns, maybe what are some of the successes that are going on within the different within the different state, I won't say organizations, but to be able to lobby and just basically talk about your concerns as Black businesses, and they've been very successful over the years. And so since my first lobby day, and then I went to the convention, and I was always amazed, and this is my first impression, Larry Ivory in the Illinois Black Chamber of Commerce, just about the high level of care and love and representation that I saw. My first impression is what I believe still keeps me going years later.
Okay. All right. And we lobby legislators when we go to Springfield to lobby on Lobby Day. All right.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Okay. And we've been uh, given access to some, important state, departments such as CMS, the Capital Development Board, IDOT, and others. Okay. So, Mr. George Coleman, how are you today, brother?
I'm amazing, sir. How are you?
Yes, sir. Okay, I'm doing fine. So, what about you? Where did you come from? I forgive Will for being from Chicago, but are you from Chicago too?
Well, originally from down south, and so families from Shreveport, Monroe, Slidell. Um, been in Chicago since '99.
Okay.
So came to Chicago. Mom and dad are from New Orleans and as well as Mississippi. So of course they met there. They moved. They relocated here. At some point, like I said, late '90s, I came here to Chicago, and so started my career, excuse me, in government. After graduating from obtaining my master's degree, I started with the city of Chicago in 1992, and worked there up until last year. And so my last position before I joined the chamber was actually deputy commissioner in the government affairs with the airport over aviation, which encompass Midway and O'Hare. We have two airports here. And so I had the distinct pleasure of being over in the government affairs, workforce development, compliance, and certification in finance. And so I got introduced to the chamber maybe, I want to say 2013, when I started in procurement for the city of Chicago. At that time, I worked for Commissioner Jamie Reed, and Mr. Larry Ivory, as Will said, he invited us down to speak at the chamber's annual event in Peoria at the Paradise. And so my commissioner couldn't come, and so she asked if I could represent the Department of Procurement Services, go and sit on the panel and speak, represent her. So I did that. I was introduced to Ms. Ivory at that time, and we've been rocking and rolling ever since. And so it was a little uncomfortable because, again, I'm sitting on the panel with other commissioners. And so I assume I did well enough where we were invited back every year after that particular time. And I guess I did well enough where my commissioner said, well, from here on out. And so I would come and sit on panels and talk about the process of certification. At the time, I was deputy procurement officer in procurement, which at the time we had about 3,000 firms that we certified. We had 5 certification types that we oversaw our department. And so I was able to, because I'm a commissioner, come to that department and also represent us at the chamber. As Will said, Miss Ivory, he was always spot on, very candid. And what I really love about the chamber is that he's always had really good people in these respective positions. And I think that's very important when you can, as we all know in this call, no one person can be everywhere all the time. And so you need great and good representation when you can't be everywhere. Because again, that's that person, a person, they're representing you.
Right.
And so one of the things I always talk to Mr. Ivory about is that the two individuals on this call right now, I really respect. You guys have a wealth of knowledge, great people to talk to if you just need counsel, if you just want to kind of pick a person's brain, and you guys have always been approachable. Because I've been here for about a little over a year and a half now. Even before I came to the chamber in capacity, I would see you guys at the different respective events, and we just pick your brain. Just ask you different things. I would watch how you all respond to concerns and answers, and I just really, as I told Mr. Ivory the other day, I just really appreciate being with a good group of guys because again, you're only as strong as your leadership.
That's
and
right.
so I think that as I told him the other day, I said it's a blessing to have good leaders in your respective regions because again, they represent you. And I said, Mr. Ivory, it's a blessing that you have a will, you have a lead, and you don't have to talk to those guys every day, but when you do talk, they'll keep you abreast, and they're representing the chamber in the best facet as possible. So, I'm just looking forward to us enhancing the chamber. I'm looking forward to us making it better. It's already great, but it can always be greater. There's always room for improvement, and I think that, with the ingenuity that we all have on the call with Mr. Ivory at the helm, I think we'll be fine.
Okay, that's great. Appreciate that. Well, I'm a regional VP too. We'll get into the duties of the regional VP. We'll get into that a little bit later. But my name is Lee Coleman, and I'm from East St. Louis, Illinois, and went to the University of Illinois. Played a little basketball there. Will keep challenging me, so I'm gonna have to dust him off before this thing is over with. But
Hey, I told you, we gonna give me about 10 years, and you give me 10 years, and you pick the place, and we'll have George, you do the recording, you videotape what happened.
okay,
Yes.
it's not gonna be pretty, I tell you that. But anyway, went to the University of Illinois. Came back home to East St. Louis to teach school. I ended up back in Springfield to work for the state, and came back to East St. Louis as the director of purchasing under the youngest mayor in the city and in the country at that time, called officer in 1979. I was the purchasing director there. From there, I moved on to the school board as a drug prevention specialist, and also I worked in the district in East St. Louis as a labor relations director. From there, I went to chief of staff to the city manager. From there to city manager, and I was the former station manager for the public access channel for East St. Louis, Centerville, Cahokia, Allerton, and Washington Park on the charter. And from there, I went to IDOT, Illinois Department of Transportation, for 15 years. I retired a year and about 8 months ago. And so I decided to reactivate my broadcasting. And so I'm working out of my studio right now, but you guys would visit when the weather gets right. We'll sit down and have a talk and look at our set that we've put together. And Larry Ivory, the president of the Illinois State Black Chamber, was very instrumental in helping us develop this station through contributions for equipment and encouragement and otherwise. So thank you, Mr. Ivory. So that's me. I'm here today, retired, and very interested in the chamber. And I think the chamber is a great vehicle for Black businesses. Now, we have 3 regional VPs, one in the northern region, which is George Coleman. Central is Will Kyles, and Lee Coleman in the southern region. So we have the state covered. So what do you think of that concept, having 3 regional VPs in the 3 areas of the city, north, central, and southern? George, what do you think? Are you there, George?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. What do you think about how Mr. Ivory structured the chamber? I was with him in the beginning, back in the 90s when he started the chamber, and he's taken it and he's rolled with it. And when he came up with the concept of regional vice presidents for northern, central, and southern, what do you think of a concept like that?
Well, I think it was a great move. I mean, and the reason why is because again, the state of Illinois is a very vast and long state, as we all know. And so you can't be everywhere every time. And so I think it was a great concept to have a VP in the northern region, southern, all across the state. And I think what's even great about, I guess you can call us the Three Stooges, so to speak. I guess what's great about us is that we all have experience, we all have relationships. And so, as we all know, to make this thing work, you have to have relationships. And I don't mean a year relationship with, I mean, you have to have grassroots knowledge and ingenuity about what you do, how to move the chamber forward, how to take your agenda and be able to coincide with different people throughout the state. And I think with Will's background, with the city council background, you, Lee, being in the DBE world, former city manager, you know, we all come with respective backgrounds. And I think that's very key because, again, no one person or persons can do everything. You know, I've learned things from you guys, a lot of things that I didn't have in me. And I don't like to use weaknesses. I like to use improvements. But there are certain improvements that I've worked on through talking to you guys. You know, and so it's not me to always say, well, hey, Lee, that was great. You know, I'm writing it down now. Or, hey, Will, you know, that was a great message that you gave. You know, I'm writing it down. But I have an attentive ear. I'm always listening, and I'm always trying to find a way to make myself better. And I think about him doing that and putting us where we were. And again, Lee, although Will, you're from here, you went down there and just, you know, ran the show. Lee, you're from down there, and you know what? You have a lot of relationships. I know a lot of people that know you. Me, I've been in government 25 plus years here, so I've built a lot of relationships up here. And so I think that was a great concept to advance the chamber's agenda throughout the state. And you know, the beauty about it is we have the experience and the temperament to make it work. And so I'm very excited about working with you guys. I'm very excited about what I've learned from you guys, and I'm thankful to have the professional relationship with you guys.
Okay, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. I love working with you guys also. Now, one of the, I want Will to get into this one for me. Um, the chamber regional VPs should be involved in helping existing and start-up chambers in their regions, helping them to understand Section 3, Title 6, and the Code of Federal Regulations. So, Will, how important do you think it is that, you know, Mr. Ivory put this, he went into his think tank and thought about putting regional VPs into action. And one of the charges he engaged us in to do was to help existing and startup chambers.
I think it's a powerful. Not only is it a powerful concept, it's like you know, you're a basketball guy. I'm a football guy. But if I put it in I guess I could put this in a basketball terminology. Essentially, if you if you got a great shot, if you got a great jump shot like Steph Curry, you can spread the defense. You can spread the defense. And things can open up for you or other players if you're a prolific shooter. And so you're basically where no one person can be, and even organization can be in one city and have the same impact. So being able to spread throughout strategically throughout the state is important because needs are different. Chicago versus Southern versus Central. We all need resources at the same, and we all need to see business survive, of course. But the reality is the landscapes by how we do that are different. It's like living in Alaska versus living in Florida. There's definitely going to be a different need in Alaska versus Florida. And so being able to be here and understand what those needs are is extremely critical. And so being able to, you talked about starting up chambers. One of the greatest messages that you start to learn being in the business is that the cost of the initial cost, teaching people the initial cost of starting up a chamber can be as high as you want, expensive as you want, or it can be as they call it bootstrapping. It could be you could do it from that dynamic, and so depending on where an organization is, and the understanding of business, and the resources they have available, really anyone with the right heart can lead a successful chamber, and the initial startup costs don't have to hinder anyone from being not just existent but relevant and important.
Okay, George, why should a person in a certain region want a chamber in the first place? Why would a person or a group of people want a chamber? What is the significant value of having a chamber?
Could you repeat that, Mr. Coleman? I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry, sir.
Yes, I was just thinking about what Will said, startup chambers. That's one of the charges that Mr. Ivory has laid upon us to go out, and get new chambers to start up. So what is the significance of having a community or a group of people starting a chamber, particularly a Black chamber?
Well, I've been kind of struggling with this, as I said, because you have a lot of people who start chambers, Lee and Will, and their heart isn't in it, right? They do it. They're trying to recruit members. They're trying to bring in revenue streams, but they don't have the heart as we have, and Mr. Ivory has. And so I've even had certain chambers and organizations come to me and say, "Hey, Mr. Colton, why don't you come work with us?" They tried to recruit me to their respective chamber here in Chicago. And Chicago's so big, I think we should all be working together anyway. Part of the problem is that, and you guys know this better than anybody, a lot of other ethnicities see that we have disconnections within our ethnicity. And so they encourage us to start up the chambers and organizations, because they know that they can go to them and say, "Hey, work with us. Don't work with Ivory and his guys. Or don't work with," and I'm not going to pinpoint certain organizations, but they'll say, "Don't work with those guys, work with us." And so I think we need to learn how to embrace each other together, because again, as I always talk about this, and Lee, you know this better than anybody, when I go in the room to represent the chamber, I'm not talking about other ethnicities. I'm not anti those guys, but I'm pro us. And so it's all about, when you go in there, it's about us. It's about our people. What can we do with our membership? And if we go in there together, it's always powerful in numbers. And I think that my experience here up here in the North is that a lot of us start chambers because we're envious of the other chamber, or we want to have our own brand. And as I always used to tell my people when I was in school, in grad school, McDonald's, it's not that McDonald's have the best burgers or the best fries, but they have a system. They have a brand, they have a system. You can go to McDonald's U and be 15 or 40 or 60. It's not about the age, it's about the system. And I think once you get into an organization or a chamber that has a great system, you can plug anybody in there. And I think that we need to learn how to embrace the system and not try to reinvent the wheel. And I brought up McDonald's because I have a neighbor who was very high up in McDonald's, Hamburger U. And we always talked about how it was about the system. And you could have a guy that's in an urban area. You can have a guy who has professional experience. You can have a guy who has a master's degree, a guy who has a law degree. It doesn't matter. He can have the most ingenuity out the group, but it's about the system. And I think that if we learn, Will and Lee, how to work together, I think we'll be okay. But a lot of us, and I might be wrong for saying it, but I'm just a very candid guy. A lot of us, we want to start our own thing. We want to be the next thing out instead of the system. And the chamber's been around for such a long time, and they've proven to help people. They're proven to have great leadership. They're proven across state to state that they've been to help other individuals of our color. But so many guys will try to start their own thing or try to dismantle us because of the great things that we do. You know, because we got the Lee Cobens and the Will Cows. And I don't know another organization, and I might be biased by saying this. I don't know another organization that has the capacity of individuals with ingenuity that we have throughout the state that have really good people that help people like we do. I haven't seen it, and that's why I've been so excited to be a part of this since 2013.
Mhm. You know something, and you hit a point there. What you're talking about in a nutshell is that since Mr. Ivory started the chamber back in the 90s, and he was the biggest and the most noted chamber, black chamber in the state of Illinois. Um, I guess some people looked at that and said, "Let me do my own thing," rather than, like you say, join and help make us big and better. They put together competing chambers, and that weakens us. Holistically, it weakens us from a point of having the strength to move things, to get legislators to do things, the governor to do certain things. So we weaken ourselves, but the chamber is still the Illinois State Black Chamber is the largest and oldest, business organization in Illinois. Will, you have something to say there?
Yeah, I think you hit on it. It not only weakens us from being able to build off of our strengths and leverage those strengths as a community. Anytime you get it, it really plays into a very negative it plays into a very negative thing where we're competing over a very limited amount of resources. We're angry at our brother or we're angry at our sister because of perceived or actual relevance, right?
Yes,
And the reality is it's a terrible way to live life. And so I think that you know that's something that we have to as a chamber, as our chamber, to not. I'm thankful that Larry Ivory has never, our president has never um, steered, allowed us to go into that type of thought process because it's self-destructive as an organization, and I think it's self-destructive as a people. But as it pertains to regional VPs, we are, we are. If this was the body, Mr. Ivory would be the brain, and we would be the hands and the legs to help lead it and facilitating the mission.
absolutely. Because we're involved in training, like we said earlier, Titles 3. I'm sorry, Section 3, Title 6, and the Code of Federal Regulations. What we don't know is that there are so many things that have been passed through executive orders and through bills signed by the president that helps us. No one knows that business better than the Black Chamber. We're the oldest, and we've been there. And we've got the experience. Um, we have the relationships with the different, legislators. We have a political action committee, and we've helped fund many legislators to help them get into office, and we've funded different initiatives. I think one of the biggest things that Mr. Ivory and us as regional VPs have done, and the chamber as a whole, was the sheltered market. It was already passed, and no one was doing anything with it. And Larry Ivory got the governor to issue an executive order to get that thing out of the grave and get it going, resurrected it. What do you think about that? I think it's Will. Can you one of you guys just explain the shelter market so that our listening audience would understand what that is?
Essentially, it is a law that says that if there is an area in state government, of course, departments or state government that or sector where there is egregious discrimination, um, it says the word not should, not maybe, not think about it. It says shall establish a market the shelter. We shall establish a shelter market where we can deal with this discrimination. It's a book that's actually, it's crazy how long it's. Do you remember how long it's been on the books? It's a law.
Yes, a law. It's been there quite some time, at least I'm going to say at least 10 years or more.
And sectors go from IT to construction, you name the sector, but we can. I mean, it's nothing. It's not even the crazy part about it is not even debatable. But over the years, there's been much debate over whether to establish systems where um, um, marginalized, particularly in our case, Black folks, have experienced discrimination and not been able to get their our fair access to opportunities where we are ready, willing, and able.
Yeah. One thing about that too, we have to get past this. Larry Ivory has been, and this organization has been called, a Republican organization. No, I think it's just, it's the interest of our people, whether we have to deal with Democrats or Republicans. And Larry Ivory had the foresight to go to the governor who would listen. That was Rauner, a Republican, and he was the one that resurrected the shelter market legislation. So are we supposed to just let it die and no governor ever picks it up, or no legislators or anybody else will pick it up and push it? This guy happened to be a Republican. So guess what? It benefits Black people. So why not talk to him? I know. So I don't think we're a Republican organization. I think we lean more Democratic in terms of who we support, but that just is the way it is. And Democrats have been more, in the past, generally speaking, more amenable to helping us with our causes. But if there's a Republican who's willing to do what Governor Rauner did, with reference to the shelter market, resurrecting that thing and putting it back into play, which we're going to have to do, something I talked to Mr. Avery about, is not being used like it should. So we're going to have to get up and fight that battle again to make them use it. I think we've only had one shelter market. Am I right, guys? That was the IT. Am I right about that?
You are.
Okay.
Yep.
So we have to get that thing out of the grave again, and we're going to have to fight for it. And these other chambers that have been, I was going to say, put together to fight against the oldest chamber, they were put there at the detriment of Black people as a whole in this state. I think so, because um, we fought the fight against the unions and won, fought the fight for the shelter market and won. And there's other accomplishments that we've, felt good about accomplishing over the years that
Well,
I've been involved in it.
well, if I could add, Lee, the hard reality is um, when you have when their poverty costs, right, and racism and all of those things, when a group is shut out of opportunities, it's costing our state more money, directly and indirectly, than 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 it would be for us all to be able to prosper, or to at least have a shot at prosperity, a real shot at prosperity. We're not asking anybody to give us anything. We're just saying let's recognize that the data, the numbers, we can talk about all of the issues that keep us up at night, whether it's gun violence or, like I said, poverty. Those things keep us up at night.
Yeah.
And when you have a group of people that are not able to equally participate, um, and that are ready, willing, and able, but can't participate, or don't have, or not for nothing else but um, um, the system, then these issues that we talk about, how are we going to stop gun violence? How are we going to make sure kids are educated? That the reality is it's impossible. And that's sad, but it's the reality. And there's no other way around it. We can sit in the meetings and as a city council member, economics and education are really, really a big deal for from a platform of mine. Um, you know, faith and works put together, I believe, is a is God's system, and it's a very powerful system.
Okay, George, you have anything to add to that? Hello, George. We may have lost George. There are a few committees that I would like to talk about that the regional vice presidents are also active in making sure these committees are functioning. And that is the Banking and Finance Committee, Contracting and Construction Committee, Energy Committee, Healthcare Committee, Information Technology Committee, IT, Membership Committee, International Trade Committee, Marketing and Communications Committee, Retail Committee, Sports and Entertainment Committee, Youth and Entrepreneurial and Education Committee. Those are committees that all have chairmen and they are functioning uh, with on a day-to-day basis, month-to-month basis.
Yeah, those are some great, and those are some great reasons to get engaged and involved in the Illinois Black Chamber of Commerce, because you get to be able to not only it's not only you hear the saying, but it's really not only about joining the organization, it's about adding to the movement. The organization is only as strong as the members who are not only willing to contribute through financial, but to contribute the intellectual, the knowledge, um, the those type of resources, human capital resources. And so being able to be engaged in different sectors such as energy, um, um, banking, you said IT, construction, those are conversations that you probably typically almost never have in any space, but particularly in our space, in circles of of Black folks, we need to have more conversations around those, because that's where that's a part of the world economy and how the world works. So I think that being able to have, I mean, yeah, and you have some really, really, really um, knowledgeable and great people part of those committees
Yes, we're going to be
who
talking to them
know
too.
their stuff.
Absolutely. But one thing that we got to talk about, we got about like 8 minutes left. We don't want our listening audience to think that we're out begging for something that is
Absolutely
right
not.
ours. Well, guess what? We pay taxes, and disproportionately, poor people pay more than the more affluent people. The tax rate for poor people, I think, or people that are not considered to be the wealthiest, is about what 39%, and the Trump passed something for the corporations. It's something like 24%. If I'm wrong, correct me. But the bottom line is that those are our tax dollars. It's our money. And we're not going to be discriminated against with our own money. And so what the chamber wants to do is make sure that people understand the laws and the executive orders that actually are on the books that help us get to where we need to get. And that's what the chamber is about. And no one knows it better than the chamber. And that's why we have these committees, and we have regional. We got a great structure. We've got the structure. We are a 501c6 organization, and that's a business organization. So I think we're on the right track, and we would hope that our people will not be, you know, um, tricked into doing things and getting affiliated with organizations that are not about what the Illinois State Black Chamber under Larry Ivory's leadership does. So, Will, you want to add anything to that before we
Yeah,
go?
I think I like the fact that we are, again, we're not we're literally working with people of all backgrounds, but particularly our own people. Everybody else gets to work with their own people, and no one says anything. When black folks, when we start working together, that's not a bad thing. It's a positive thing.
But
It's
you know
an
what I heard?
amazing thing.
You know what I heard early on? We got George back. And George, you can jump in on this. You know what I heard early on when I first got involved with the Black Chamber? I had black people to say, why Black Chamber? They were afraid or embarrassed to use the word Black Chamber. But there's an Hispanic chamber, there's a Asian American chamber. Um, Different groups have their chambers for the benefit of helping their own. So talk to me a little bit before we go about why we use the word Black Chamber.
Well,
George?
I think a lot of people, and I apologize for being knocked off of there. I think a lot of people they get afraid to put the prefix on the front of the chamber. And to your point, Lee, why? You have a SEA, you have the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Asian American, you have the Chinese Service American League. I mean, you go in Chinatown, you have 5 different respective chambers. They all work together. In the Latino community, you have about 4 or 5 chambers within a 3-block radius. They all work together. They have no problem going in the room and saying, "Hey, I'm here on behalf of Latinos and Latinas." We have an issue with it. Someone asked me, they said, "Well, why did you join that? Why would you? Why like that's it puts a negative cloud over your head if you have black in front of your name." And this is someone that was black. And I go, "Well, what's wrong with the Chinese chamber, Asian American, Hispanic Chamber of Commerce?" I said, "You have a Greek chamber here in Chicago. You even have a there's a particular ethnicity I'm looking for now, that they have a chamber, which I didn't even know until like 2 days ago. And I was very appalled and shocked. And so I go to get some food. And so the guy says, "Hey, here's my card." And I said, "Oh." And he said, "We just started a chamber and we're looking to grow our chamber." And he was very receptive to me. So I started talking about what we do at the Illinois Black Chamber of Commerce. And then he goes, "Oh, that's great." And so he told me he lived in Africa for like 4 or 5 years and he moved here. And just a very nice guy, Lee and Will. And so I said, "Well, what made you guys start a chamber?" And he goes, "Well, everyone else has a chamber." And so they have their chamber is called the Ethiopian Chamber of Commerce. And they're in the Edgewater area, which is the very north side of Chicago. And
What
so
about
I go,
the Bosnians?
he says, "Well, you all have a chamber. We all should have chambers. We should all represent our people."
Absolutely.
And it just really, the bell went off that we're doing the right thing. And I gave him my business card and he goes, that's great that you all have representation and you fight for your people." He said, because most people are reluctant and scared to talk about their member of the respective chambers when they look like us. They're dark and they look like us.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're in the right direction.
Absolutely, absolutely. Getting back to our charge as region VPs, Mr. Ivory has impressed upon us that we should be, again, engaged in our communities with our religious leaders, elected officials, state, county, federal, local. We should be involved with those guys, and we are engaging those people to make things better for Black people, not people of color. If you ask me, not people of color. We're the only people who use that term. You don't hear that term used by Hispanics or white women groups or things like that, because they're competing against us. In the old days, when I was coming up, being a 69-year-old man, basically the only minority that was recognized at that time was what? African Americans. Now we got white women, we got Pacific Islanders, we got Native Americans, we got what else? Hispanics. Everybody is put into that ball, 7 protective classes. So we have to do something that is exclusively for us. Not like you said, we don't hate anyone, but what is wrong for being for ourselves because everyone else is? So I don't like that word people of color. I just like to say, hey, Black people, the only ones in the protective group who were slaves. So that's my spiel for the day. In closing,
Um,
Will, go ahead. You got another comment?
well, I just want to know between the two of you guys, have you ever had any interaction with anyone in your respective regions that you kind of communicated and alluded to the fact that you guys are not so much as your title, what you do with the chamber, that you're aligned with the chamber, and they kind of had a turned nose when they heard black?
I did. I had that with a mayor in my area. He said, "Tell me about that. What is this black chamber stuff?" A black mayor.
Yeah, I have as well. I think that that's unfortunate, but again, it's not even it. To be honest with you, the as much time as the time that we have on this earth is so small that the issues that have become so big that are not shouldn't be issues at all have become issues, and it's amazing to think that it's almost it's amazing to think that um but I know where it comes from, and so we'll I think that would be a great topic to pick up on our next podcast. Where does it come from? How
How did we get there?
why do we do that? What
How did we
that's a
get
great conversation to have.
there? Okay. With that having been said, I want to thank Mr. Will Cowles and George Coleman. George Coleman, the Regional Vice President for the Illinois State Black Chamber in the Chicago area. Will Cowles in the central area of Illinois. Home base is Champaign. Lee Coleman, Southern Regional VP. And my home base is East St. Louis and the East St. Louis area. Um, I just want to thank you guys. And we're going to be doing this more often. And again, Mr. Larry Ivory, he chose us. I think we all three have impeccable credentials. We're committed. We're not afraid, and we love our people, Black people, and that's what we're about. So it's not when you're for your people, it doesn't mean you hate anyone else. And I shouldn't have to say that, but we're the ones who suffer the most in every category of life. So why not be the ones that pick up the pieces and help us get to the next level? So having said that, I want to thank you guys for joining us, and we're going to do this twice a month. Thank you so much, Mr. Coleman and Mr. Kyle Lee Coleman signing off from Leeds Feed. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye bye.